guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome to my channel for the first time. My name is Elizabeth and today I'm going to be doing a highly requested video about relationship advice, a little Q&A, giving you little tips that have changed my marriage for the better. Basically all things relationships today. I'm sitting in front of my little Valentine's Day background here. I'm filming this just before Valentine's Day. We did a little photo shoot with this heart wall, so that was like a while ago, but it's still up, and so I decided I'd use it for a video today. But for today's video, I actually asked you guys on Instagram for video requests. This was what someone requested, and so then I put a little like ask me questions box and asked you guys to ask me questions about relationships. So I can give you guys the best advice that I have, and then for things that I'm not as experienced on, like starting a new relationship while COVID is going on, I asked for advice on that, and I have a lot of really good answers actually. So let's just jump into it. First, I did get some questions about long distance relationships. If you guys haven't been following me for very long, David and I had the first almost 3 years of our relationship be long distance. The distance was like two and a half hours. I lived in Kentucky for some of it and he lived in Indiana, so sometimes depending on traffic it'd be more like 3, but that's not super bad for distance. We didn't get to see each other all the time, but we got to see each other at least like once, maybe twice a month. My best tips for long distance relationships specifically, sorry if you hear anything, my dog is sitting on my lap. I love you. He said leave me alone. Biggest tip for long distance relationships is to communicate. I think it's super important to have open communication set up, be clear on what you guys have as different expectations, and I would say, like, at least for David and I, on the weekends that we couldn't see each other, we set up like scheduled, at the time it was Skype dates, but I imagine a lot of people now just do FaceTime. We set up scheduled Skype dates so that we could have time to like talk with one another, hang out with one another, even though we weren't together. And I would say, like, we'd get frustrated when the other person would be like, oh well, my friends had asked me to hang out, so I'm gonna go do that tonight instead. And so we learned very quickly that once we had something scheduled, we needed to stick with it because it was a prior commitment. Even if it was like cut shorter, we couldn't really just cancel it because, you know, even though one person might have been like, oh well, you know, there's a party going on tonight, I want to go, the other person's like, well, you know, I've been planning on like talking to you tonight and having our like little date night thing, and so I need you to like stick with me on that. So a lot of times it'd be like, okay, well let's just move it to like half an hour earlier, then we can end like half an hour earlier also, and then you can go to your party, and then we each get like time that we've had together also, if that makes sense. So I just think that's important to reserve specific amount of time for your significant other for actual like face-to-face talking, not just like texting, you know. I would also say that for long distance relationships, use your time apart to grow as individual people also. I think it's so important. Like, David and I have such drastically different like hobbies and things that interest us, and I think that's because we spent so much time as like apart during our long distance relationship, is that we each had to find other things that like made us happy and like we liked to like do. And so like he's really into like sports and the stock market and finances, and I'm really into like creativity and YouTube and you know, crafting and stuff like that. And so having things that are like we each are passionate about without depending on the other person was like really big. One of the first questions that I got on Instagram was, is it best to start a relationship with someone in your friend group or not? And I just thought this question was so funny, just to me especially, because my first boyfriend in 7th grade was one of David's best friends, and my second boyfriend in 7th grade was one of David's best friends. And then I moved high schools and didn't go to school with him anymore. Didn't go to college with him anymore, transferred colleges back home, started working at one of the sporting goods stores in our little small town that we had lived in at the time, and I met a guy there. I thought he was the love of my life. I dated him for a while. It turns out he was actually David's best friend, and after a while we broke up, and then I went on vacation with him and a couple other of his guy friends, and I met David, and then David and I started dating, and then that guy that I had met at the sporting goods store was the best man for our wedding. So I based on experience, I think sticking with the friend group is a pretty good idea, because we were all you know, we just had the same friend group for so long, and you know, I was like a part of the friend group because I ran cross country and stuff, and then I had started dating one of the guys, and he introduced me to everyone, and then I just stuck around with the friend group. I didn't really leave when the relationship ended, and then, you know, David and I still talk to those people to this day. So, um, I suggest dating within your friend group. It's worked out really well for me, but it might not work for everyone. So, you know, I'm gonna leave that up to you, but don't think it's just like a thing you're gonna fail at. Like, if it doesn't work, like, I'm still friends and stuff with all of the guys that I've dated except for like two. So be friends first. I think friends sets a great establishment for the rest of your relationship. The next question that I got was, dating with COVID, is it okay? And is it okay to have anxiety over it? It's absolutely okay to have anxiety about it. We are in a situation that like none of us have ever been in before. It's hard when like everything you see on the news is telling you like, don't leave your house, don't talk to your friends and family that you love, don't see anyone, and then you're still trying to navigate a world where you're like trying to like establish relationships and meet someone you can spend your life with, and it's hard because they're like, you can't even see your family, like, you know, the world's gonna say, hey, don't go meet anyone. I don't know how comfortable I would be meeting someone just like randomly, but I feel like if you like meet someone online or whatever and you establish like talking and FaceTiming and like having like virtual dates first, and you like get to know them really well, you can see how they are dealing with all of this with like social distancing and if they're taking precautions and all of that, and then you can kind of get to know like, okay, well, they are also being careful, I am being careful, we both work from home, we don't really go anywhere, like it would be okay for us to meet. You know, I think you just have to use your best judgment. I am going to read some of these comments that I got about this, or messages that I got, because a lot of people brought up a lot of good points that like I didn't even think of. Someone said that like dating right now with a pandemic, it makes it super easy to like have like a scale or a test or whatever to like test boundaries. Like if someone isn't waiting or isn't willing to wait until you're comfortable to meet, and they just want to like be like, okay, let's meet right now, let's meet today, like I want to meet you, like come over right now, and they're not like patient with you and like willing to like wait until you're comfortable, it kind of like shows a lot about them. They probably aren't going to be a great match for you if they're going to pressure you like right as you start talking to them. I think that like that's something, like me being married through all this, that's not something that I would have thought about or considered would be like, you know, pop up as like a warning sign, I guess. I will also say that a lot of people are very stressed right now, and if you're in a new relationship, it can kind of like show you more insight to how the person is, and it's just like an opportunity to see how they would be in a stressful situation that they, I would say, wouldn't normally have. But we're in this for like a little over a year now, so yeah, I don't know about that, but you have to, someone said that you have to really be able to go through and see how you each react, and be able to talk through like how you're reacting. Like she messaged me and said that like her partner was being messy and doing projects just because he wanted to like be able to do something, but he was like leaving everything a mess, but like he could control that. And then she was going around stress cleaning because she was like, oh my gosh, you know, pandemic germs, let me clean everything. And they were like doing opposite things, but they could both control those things. And once they realized that like that's how they were both reacting, they could sit down, have a conversation, and like work through it. And so I think that like having like the ability to like, you know, see all this stuff and see how COVID affects like relationships and stuff around you and like everything you're dealing with, I think it's like really insightful. So I would say that dating during COVID is okay as long as you are comfortable, and you have to set boundaries for yourself and with the people that, you know, you're interacting with. It's important to have those discussions with like meeting and everything like that. But yeah, that's something we never thought we'd have to deal with, right? My next question, how did you know that you had found the one? Originally, my mom had told me. I had been like FaceTiming David, Skyping David for like hours at a time when he moved back to school and we like weren't a thing. And like I would always be like, yeah, we're just friends, like whatever. He invited me to a wedding as just a bro, mom, we're just friends, like don't say that. And she'd be like, I can just tell he's gonna be your husband one day, you're gonna marry him one day, and that's it. And so, you know, for a while I kind of delayed starting the relationship. I'd be like, no, I don't want to date you yet because my mom says that you're the one I'm gonna marry. So I know once I start dating you, I don't ever date anyone else, and so I don't want to date you yet. Um, but that's how I found out. But when I actually realized it myself that he was the one, my previous relationships, I would always like sit in my car and the guy's driving and like text and be like, okay, I'm here, will you come out and get me? Because I felt so uncomfortable just like walking into their house. But it only took like 2 times for me to like go over to David's parents' house and just like walk right in the door and like feel right at home, and it was like totally okay. It made me feel more comfortable and like I was included and invited, and I feel like that was a big indication for me. And then he'd have me like, you know, with us being long distance, or like a ton of things we'd rather do when we actually got to hang out with each other than doing our homework because we were both in college. But when he would like invite me over when he would be in town, like I'd come over and he'd be like, okay, where's your homework? We need to sit here and get this done before we do anything else. And like I think him being like disciplined for me showed me that he had my best interest in mind, and that was like a lot of clarity for me. The next question: how do you keep the honeymoon phase alive? I think this is a really good question because I think currently David and I in our relationship right now, like, I don't know, I'd have to talk to him if he'd be comfortable with me doing a video, but like there were a lot of moments like leading up to our elopement and wedding where I was like super doubtful that like I wanted to go through with any of it. And I know a lot of it was because like I had just lost my mom and I had my whole life planned a certain way, and like at the drop of a hat like everything changed and I was like so doubtful about everything and I didn't know what I wanted anymore. So like that whole like we went through like a whole year and a half where I was just like so confused and like not even sure about anything. And so I would say like our honeymoon phase didn't really start until like a couple months ago. um just like I picture a honeymoon phase of just like so much like bliss and happiness, and like I was constantly trying to like justify my feelings and all sorts of stuff. Like I'm not gonna get into it now, but like the honeymoon phase I consider to be like fully like obsessed with one another and like so blissfully happy, and I feel like that started once we moved to Kentucky. And so I feel like a little bit that we're still in it now. But like I also feel like there are some things that we have like done recently that have like really encouraged like a honeymoon phase to continue. And I think one of the biggest things that have helped like us, number one, we make time for one another in our schedules. We used to work such odd schedules that like I would work in the morning and then he'd work until 9:30 at night, and we just would never talk. And I think like now we make time to hang out with each other. We have shows that we each watch together, like we watch shows on Netflix together, but then we have shows that we each watch separately. So if we want to watch something by ourselves, we each have different shows on Hulu that we're watching right now. And I feel like having something we do together and separate helps our relationship. We make it a priority to go walk our dog, and while we're walking we do like no phones or devices or anything, and we just talk to one another. We plan our future, talk about all of that. We set goals together. We recently, actually it wasn't recently, like I would say it's probably last year sometime, I started like a before baby bucket list, everything that I wanted to do before like having a baby. And like we're obviously like not trying for that anytime soon, but we just like hit a point a few months ago that we were like, why not? Why don't we just start getting stuff done on our bucket list, because it would give us something to do. And so we're like making all sorts of plans right now, and it's really exciting, like planning things together and like accomplishing goals together and like setting goals together. And it's just like keeps us on the same page and like excited about things. I would also say that traveling a lot helps us like absolute ton. Like we are both super passionate about that, and having things that we are both passionate about that we can do together helps us keep like the honeymoon phase alive. And then I would say that one of my favorite things that we've like heard, I actually got this from a podcast, and I would say that it's just like super interesting to see how like the dynamics of your relationship like change and how you become like so much closer by like implementing this. It's like One Marriage or something like that was the podcast. I can't remember very well, but we listened to it while we were traveling and we were like driving in the car, and it talked about starting like a sex streak, so that you like set a number of days, like okay, we're gonna go like you know, a week or a month or whatever, that we're going to have sex every single day and we're going to make one another in our relationship a priority over like everything else going on in life. Like, I love you more than how tired I am. I love you more than wanting to read a book, or love you more than wanting to play Xbox or watching a movie, or you know, whatever it may be. Just putting each other in your relationship above all of the other like distractions that you have in life. And it's really interesting to see how like making one another a priority and like making it more like a game, I guess, be like, how long can we actually make it before you know, we actually like stop, or you know, whatever. It's just like a really like fun thing to do. And like, you know, because like being married and like having like life things going on, it's hard to have sex every single day. And it's just interesting, like when you like consciously make it a priority to be like, oh, you know, we're on a sex streak right now, so you know, it's like kind of exciting. So it doesn't work for everyone, but it was like a really interesting, like in the podcast they went into like psychology and everything behind it, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just something to try that has helped keep our honeymoon phase alive, that's for sure. Next question, things that you've done to improve your relationship. I feel like a lot of this is overlap. So a lot of the stuff to keep the honeymoon phase alive has improved our relationship. But I would say that recently, sorry, I have like notes down here. Recently, like things that have like improved our relationship, we go to the gym together now, and we don't work out together. We just go together and then leave together. Sometimes we'll run like a couple of treadmills apart. We don't really talk at the gym, but we just go together, and then we can just like make faces at one another, watch each other from across the gym, and then we leave. And that sounds ridiculous, but we both go, we both get our workout in. David used to go all the time without me because like, you know, I go outside and run. I don't really like using the weight machines or anything like that. But realizing how happy it made him just to have me like go along with him has like improved our relationship by like a ton. I just go and I just like, run on the treadmill, and he goes down to the different weight machines, but he always likes being able to like turn around and see me running, and then like I'll make a face at him or whatever. But it's just like something little that we've done, and I think it's because like our whole like relationship, we never prioritize like date nights or anything like that, just because number one, we don't like spending money going out and doing things. We'd rather put that money towards travel and like go out of town once a month instead of like a date night every week, just because like those are the type of people we are. So like getting out of the house and going to the gym is like a date night, you know, kind of. And so we like to do that. I would also say that it's helped us having separate hobbies and separate things that we do that we don't need the other person for. And I feel like that stems from like being in a long distance relationship for so long. And then I would also say that recently David has gotten a hobby, and he's been like super into like stock market stuff and all of that. And I feel like him having something that he is just head over heels like in love with doing has helped our relationship, because for a while there it was like me with all of the hobbies and crazy things that were like unique to me, and all of his hobbies were like things that we both shared. So that's helped a lot. The next question, where can I meet someone? With COVID, a lot of restaurants and like bars and stuff are still like have strange hours and stuff around here. I would say, you know, before I met David, I did some like app dating and online dating for a while, and I mean, it was fine. I think it's just like you have to sort through a lot of duds to get some like diamonds in the rough. But one of my best friends met her husband on Tinder, and they're like incredible together. So there are all sorts of people out there online. With COVID going on, I would stick to online for now, just because like even a lot of people's like schools and stuff aren't in person, so it's like harder to meet one another. But you know, it's just the time we're in. It shall pass soon. Fingers crossed. Next question, the best relationship advice you've ever received. Okay, so you have to remember that you guys are on the same team. No matter what, it's you two against the problem. It's not you constantly arguing with each other. It's you two together against the problem. And I think putting it like that in your mind, you're like, oh yeah, we are against the problem, because you both want the same thing. You both want everything to be better. You want to be on the same page. You want to be happy. And you have to remember, it's you guys against the problem. That is pretty much it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you have any more questions, you can leave them in the comments down below, and I will try to get back to responding to them. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other video requests also, please leave them down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!